Good morning, good morning. How is everybody? Hello, hello. So, do you have your coffee? Coffee up. That's good stuff. Have my joint. So, once we get about 500 people here, we'll get serious. I think that'll be my new technique. So, if you're fast forwarding through the replay, you can just wait till it gets to 500, and then you'll know I'm past the introductory phase. Don't like me sending you the climate abstract again? So, let's talk about climate science. We're about at 500. Let's say we'll wait till we hit 500. And go. All right, so this is the beginning of the meat of my broadcast. So if you may have noticed on my blog, I was writing about climate science. Now, similar to the way I endorsed Hillary Clinton for my personal safety, I have also endorsed the majority of scientists on climate science. In other words, if science says that climate change is a certain thing, I accept their opinion because I'm not a scientist. The part that I'm quibbling with is the global illusion that we non-scientists can evaluate the work of scientists and come to some common sense kind of understanding of what it's all about with climate change. This is the most ridiculous illusion you'll ever see, and it's fairly common. I would say it's nearly universal. So one of the ways that people have responded to my provocative claim that no one who's a non-scientist anyway, can look at any of the climate science stuff and come up with any kind of an opinion that's better than a guess, because most people are under the illusion that only one side has good evidence. And the reason is that once we get invested in our side, we simply stop looking at the evidence from the other side. It's like it doesn't exist. It's just invisible. And so people have responded to that comment that people can't see the evidence on the other side, and my statement that I see both sides as being completely credible. How did they respond to that? They got really angry at me, called me names, and then sent me very convincing arguments on their side, which I already agree with, because I'm accepting the fact that your argument is very, very convincing. The problem is the other side is just as convincing. And if you haven't looked at their stuff, you don't know that, right? So, so look at how many people, if you have time today, look at the comments on my blog, look at the tweets, and look how many people are sending me strong arguments on their side as their response to my claim that both arguments are strong. In other words, they're just saying what I'm saying, but they think they're saying the opposite. I'm literally saying your argument is rock solid. And then people say, I disagree with you because my argument is rock solid. No, that's my point. Your argument is very good. So is the other side, as far as a non-scientist can tell, right? So when scientists are asking the non-scientists to, smarten up and see what's obvious and agree with them, these are completely irrational requests, because we don't have the capacity or anything close to it to understand anything about climate science. We do, however, have the illusion that we have that feature in our brain. We have the illusion that we can look at these competing claims about climate science and we can come up with some kind of common sense, non-scientist kind of opinion on which side is right. And to me, this is one of the most fun illusions because it's so prevalent and almost everybody has it. The people who don't have it, the way you can identify them is that they're not being influenced by confirmation bias. And one of the ways you can tell that is if somebody's straddling the fence, like I am, and saying, hey, both arguments look good to me and I can't tell the difference. That is a tell for confirmation bias not influencing me, because I'm literally not influenced. Like, I don't see either of those arguments as more persuasive than the other. They're both great to a non-scientist. Bad connection. I think, is everybody having a bad connection, or might be just you? So so if you want to see a little lesson on confirmation bias and of cognitive dissonance and an illusion, go to my Twitter feed at Scott Adams Says and look at the number of people who came in just to insult me and to say how stupid I am. All right, that's all, and without anything included that would be the counter argument. That's almost always a tell for cognitive dissonance, to go after the messenger. And then beyond that, watch how many people either argue for a point I wasn't making, or send me information on just one side and say, damn it, how can you say both sides are so convincing? Let me show you just one side. How is that even a response to both sides are convincing? Yeah, look at this one side, it's convincing. That's literally half as much as I said and in complete agreement with it. So maybe talk about the other half too. All right, so that's all I need to say about that for now. What do I think about the quality of Trump's team? Well, they're obviously all serious people with serious credentials. People who have a problem with the team generally have a problem with the political views they think the team holds, not the capability, not the experience. So I think he did a good job of putting together a credible team, even if you don't like where they're going. Someone told you not enough women. Yeah, not enough women, probably not enough minority representation. I think that's all true. It's also consistent with everything he's been saying from the beginning, which is an over-reliance on the political correctness of things and on the social appearance is a detriment to the country. And he's proving that by ignoring the social impulse to have a more inclusive looking cabinet. So he just ignored it. He has more women than Obama did. Is that true? Can I blog on UN funding? So the UN funding question, I think, has to be viewed as a persuasion, meaning that it's leverage we have over the UN, and the people who work at the UN get salaries, and the representatives probably would like to keep their jobs. And so when the biggest funder of it says, hey, if we don't get what we want, we might defund them. Well, what persuasion impact does that have? Obviously, it has a pretty strong impact to make people there say, this was sort of a gray area and I was a little bit on the fence, but if I go this way, I can keep my funding and my job. If I go the other way, I got to get a new job. It's pretty good persuasion. So it makes sense for Trump to threaten the funding of the UN, because that improves the possibility that one of two things will happen. Either other people will step up to fund it, which isn't so bad, or because we're funding it, we'll have more influence over it than other people, which is also not bad for us. It's bad for other countries, obviously. Do I have a hypothesis about why dumb people insult me on Twitter? No, because it's not dumb people insulting me on Twitter. It's smart people. And the hypothesis is that when a smart person sees another smart person who disagrees with them completely on something they thought they had a pretty solid opinion on, one of two things can happen. They can either immediately change their opinion to what the other smart person said, but we don't like to do that. We don't ever like to change our opinion because we like to think we're smart. The other possibility is you go into uh, some kind of a cognitive dissonance illusion where you explain away the other smart argument as being nonsense with sort of an illusion that you generate spontaneously. So the people who come in just to insult me are usually smart, and they've been triggered by the fact that they saw someone else smart and disagree with them. And now they either have to admit they're not smart on that topic, or they have to form an illusion that the other person is not smart or that what they're saying is nonsense. So they come in and they insult me with ad hominems. Third possibility. Will I ever do a book signing event? Almost certainly not. And it's not because I wouldn't want to do a public appearance for my book. It's because I don't sign books anymore. I take selfies. So if somebody buys my book, they stand there, I put my arm around them, they take a picture. It's way better than an autograph, don't you think? It's easier to just send around. It's put it on Facebook, whatever you want. And the autographs take too long, and they, it's just a pain. It's bad for my hand. Am I opposed to Ayn Rand? I'm not opposed to her. I see her as an author, and that's it. So if you've taken your philosophy of life from a fiction novel, that might not work out so well for you. So I see her as an author, a successful one. He's a treasonous backstabber, huh? Scott, could you persuade me to become gay? Probably could. That's the funny thing. Well, I couldn't persuade you to be, genetically gay, because clearly people are born with certain orientations. But if you were at least a little bit open-minded about it, let's say you had some bi tendencies, could a hypnotist, not me necessarily, but could a hypnotist turn you into, full gay lifestyle? And the answer is yes, probably. But you'd have to want it. If you didn't want it, it wouldn't happen. And if you wanted it, you were probably halfway there anyway. Yeah, you could persuade someone to be gay if they didn't mind being gay, right? If they had a serious problem with the idea, then of course not. You could not. But say there was someone who just thought, well, it's just a different lifestyle, and you were hypnotizing them, and you said, well, would you mind being gay if you decided to be gay? Would that be a problem? And if that person said, no, I'm not gay, but I wouldn't mind being gay, could have some advantages. In that unlikely situation where somebody was willing to be convinced, not convinced, but let's say hypnotized to live a gay lifestyle, sure. But it's more because I want to than because the persuasion works. Could I make Milo straight? I was going to make a joke there, but I'm going to hold back on that. Yeah, no matter how many times I say it, you're going to misinterpret it. So somebody's going to run off now and say, hypnotist says he can hypnotize me to be gay, and therefore he doesn't know that it's something you're born with. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you wanted, if you were open to the idea of being gay, but you weren't predisposed, you were just open to it, you didn't have a particular problem with it, and you wanted to be talked into it, yeah, a hypnotist could bring you along, but it's just taking you where you wanted to go, or where you didn't mind going. So you don't have to want it, you just have to not mind it, and then a hypnotist can take you there. Best way to make money in 2017? Well, that's individual. Everybody's got their own best way. Yeah, it's like weight loss hypnosis. It only works if you were going to lose weight anyway. Where do you invest in the future booming market? Good question. I don't give investment advice, and so you should not construe anything that I say here as investment advice, except I'll make one exception. Diversify your portfolio. How to write a story that spreads. Oh, yes, how to be viral. Yeah, I'll tell you some tips on that. So the first thing I'll tell you about writing things that are viral, that you would like to become, viral shared sensations, is that nobody can do it. I saw a statistic recently that of all the things that were viral on Facebook, and by the way, I don't believe this, but I'll just tell you what I read, that of all the things that have been viral on Facebook, say in the last year, that they're pretty much all paid. In other words, there was somebody paying to jack up the rank and make it more viral. So that the idea that you can just make stuff viral is actually far more rare than you think. Now, I think whatever I read had to be an exaggeration. Clearly, there are things that don't have money behind them that do become viral. I'm sure that exists, but I could be hallucinating, right? Because if he asked me to give you an example, I go, I can't think of one. Now, there are some examples where I've done things that were viral and there was no money behind them, but there's usually an organization that has big funding that gets behind the content because it agrees with them. So in some ways, there's money behind it, right? There's a paid professional organization that says, hey, this agrees with us. Let's put this out everywhere. So in some ways, there's money behind it. Give you an example. Hold on. Sorry, I got a cold. The most viral thing I've ever written was my blog a few years ago on doctor-assisted suicide. And that went hugely viral, part of it because it was emotional content. And it meant something to people and it touched them, so it was relevant. And it was in the news and it had all that going for it. But the biggest thing it had going for it is that there were existing organizations who were arguing on the same side. And those existing organizations saw it and said, oh, let's put this in our newsletter. Let's spread this. Let's tweet this. Let's put it on Facebook. So even in the case where I'm not personally paid and I'm not paying anybody to make my content viral, somewhere in the process, there's a professional paid organization that has money and structure and people that makes a difference, all right? So I can't confirm or deny that anybody has ever made any viral content without some money involved, either at the first stage or the second stage. So here are the things you want in your content to give it a chance of being viral, the best chance. You want it to, number one, tie to the headlines, or if it's not tying to the headlines, tie it to something that should be the headline, like it's already on people's minds, but for whatever reason the mainstream media hasn't picked it up. So that's more rare. The easier way to do it is just find something that people are already talking about, and then say what they're saying better than they're saying it. So that's the hard part, right? So you want to say the same point they already agree with, because you don't make viral content that people are changing their minds on. That's kind of hard. You want viral content that people already agree with, because they're the ones who are going to share it, because it agrees with them. So you got to agree with a lot of people, but you got to state your agreement in a way that's more clever, more interesting, just more fun to look at than however other people have done it so far. Then it also helps to have something in your presentation that looks wrong. This is the Trump trick. The Trump trick is to do a tweet that's got a typo in it, or an exaggeration, or hyperbole that the other side just can't accept. Right. And if you include that, people will be drawn to it because of the error. It's the error that makes it interesting. It's not the part that was right. So if you want both sides to look at your content, you say what your side agrees with, so they'll spread it around because they like it. But you also leave an error in there, but not a big one, just enough that the other side looks at it like, sharks looking at chum, and they swarm onto it and they retweet it to show you how stupid you are. Right? So you get both sides tweeting you, one side because they mostly agree, give or take the small exaggeration that you put in there, and the other side retweets it too because they disagree with the small exaggeration. So that's sort of the Trump trick for maximum attention. Because truth, the way we process truth, is really whatever we spend the most time looking at. Right? If you spend most time looking at one side of the argument, you end up just persuading yourself that is right. So if you cause the other side to argue with you, but in the process of arguing with you, they have to sort of come into your world and buy some of your premises and spend time in the, let's say, in the field of your argument. They are in effect talking themselves and people who are watching the argument. They're persuading them for the other side, just because people are spending too much time thinking and concentrating on the other argument. Yeah, hoping your book is banned to get more sales. That would be the extreme case. You're gay for the truth. 3 million illegal voters. Yes, that's a good example, especially when you come out with a round number like that. Somebody asked about my favorite protein bar. I think it's backwards, but it's a Builder's protein bar. I like the chocolate peanut butter version. I don't know if it has any sugar. I'm sure they all do. You like The Way of the Weasel? Surprise. That was my probably least popular book. All right, now it's time for you to help me. I need to write some cartoons today. I spent all my time blogging. Is anybody at work? Is anybody in a cubicle right now? Tell me if you're sitting in a cubicle right now. Yes, yes, yes. Me right now. In an office. Work from home. No. Cube. All right, for those of you in the cubicle, look around at what you're reading or your emails or who you just talked to. What is the buzzword that you just encountered? You know, the jargon. Just give me the word. Like what are some buzzwords, some technical jargon, some compliance? There's one. Pushback. Asset allocation. Yeah, now you're working on it. Allocation. Heuristics. Lock in a sock. I don't know what that is. Operational issues, digitizing, diversity audience compliance, dependency injection, data sets, bottlenecks. Notice how none of these words you use in your personal life? Human performance, marketing agency, self-manage. Self-manage. Self-manage is automatically funny. Micro-inequitize. Cannibalize. Level 2 management. I don't know. Resources. Yeah. Cloud. Shrimping. Authentic. Worst practices. Deferred revenue. Organic. Optics. I use that one all the time. Blue sky. Managing your boss. Granular. Isn't it amazing how all these words are just sort of, greenfield? These are all just sort of business words. You don't use these in your normal life. Market-based management. What's that? Moonshot. Socialize. Moonshot. Data-driven. Wow, these are good. Cost containment. Engagement. Low-hanging fruit. Hope soap? Is that a thing? That's what you heard lately? You're fired? Directionally right. That's something I say. Interoperability. It's a good one. Evergreen. Over-indexing. All right. So, pivot, yeah. I've done that before. So, who's got a situation in the office where there's a coworker who has a personality trait that's driving you crazy? So just say the trait in like 2 words or 1 word. Like what's the personality trait that your coworkers have, micromanaging, con artists, cuck, that bothers you? The overshare, lazy, gaslighting, douchery, snorting, doesn't listen, talks too much, wordy, empty suit, weasel. These are pretty good. Pronounces British words. I know what you mean. Prima donna, hyperactive. Trigger the tiger. Overconfident. On the spectrum, angry, overconfident. I like overconfident. Pretentious. You got some bad coworkers. Temper tantrums, superficial. Talking too much is the biggest problem, isn't it? Cheerful backstabber. Oh, the cheerful backstabber. That's a perfect cartoon character. Loses train of thought. That's me. Jealous. The interrupter. The corrector. Passive aggressive. Confused. Smells terrible. You got a lot of people who smell terrible in your offices. The one-upper. I've got that character. The perfectionist. Never does anything. So I've got that character. Wally. The usurper. The insufferable hipster. Narrates the whole day. The exercise guy. Territorial lunatic. I like that one. Passive aggressive confidence. I need to know how that manifests. Conference call hog. The rules don't apply. Calls everyone sir or ma'am. Always on a new diet. Dieter. Yeah, dieters are the worst. Noisy knitter. Yeah, the speakerphone thing is the number one thing people ask me to write about. The sprayer, racist against his own race. Serial talker. Complainer, serial toucher. The always standing guy. The praise loving guy. All right, I think I got enough to work on this for now. Thank you so much. Oh, the legacy product guy. Oh, the mumbler. The mumbler. All right, I gotta go. Gotta do some work. Thank you for all this. This is good stuff. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon, maybe tomorrow. Bye.